know. So like a shop listening to this, like, oh, I can pay them less. So like I just want to like debunk some of these myths. Are there tax breaks? If you need a solution to improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department, you can hit up Graphic Source. Graphic Source offers industry-leading outsource options for truly becoming a part of your team. They plug and play with Printavo and other shop management softwares. And if it comes to steps, mockups, creative art, order management, embroidery, digitizing, back office admin, there's no better company in our industry to work with. They have over 40 years in the game and a proven track record of success. Hit them up and you'll get 50% off your first vector, SEP, or embroidery order. Thanks so much, Graphic Source. All right, EasyWay. Spending hours cleaning screens is a thing of the past. With EasyWay's screen printing and screen cleaning chemicals, their innovative formulas are designed to work quickly and effectively so you can spend less time cleaning and more time creating. Plus, EasyWay is passionate about empowering printers of all skill levels. They offer helpful resources and expert advice to help you succeed in screen printing. Thank you so much, EasyWay, for sponsoring the podcast. And if you haven't heard of multicraft_daddy, go to Instagram right now, type in multicraft_daddy. And if you need ink supplies or a daddy, Multicraft Screen Printing and Digital Supplies for over 50 years has been providing you with top brands at competitive prices. You can mention the Printavo podcast and receive an extra 10% off your first order. Dave at Multicraft wants to sweeten it up. And so every episode you can DM him and he is giving away PMI tape. So if you haven't already DM'd him, shoot him a message. He picks a winner every single week and we appreciate you. All right. DGI Apparel. I'm here to tell you about the best new software platform to hit the industry. It's called DGI Apparel, and it was built by a group of super smart MIT engineers with a background in screen printing. It allows you to connect your accounts with Sanmar, Alphabroder, SNS, AS Color. You can even buy PMI tape on there, and you can compare prices, inventory, shipping times across every apparel supplier on one website. You don't need multiple screens. You can literally just go to dgiapparel.com and all of them will pop up. The average shop spends 2 hours purchasing every day, and DGI is going to cut that time in half. So ask yourself, what would you do with an extra hour every single day? And we don't have a promo code because DGI is free, and it's always going to be free. That's right. It costs you $0. So if you're not already using DGI, you're wasting your time and money. Sign up today at dgiapparel.com. Join 1,500 other shops that are saving time and money on their purchases. All right, BMAC. BMAC is one of the best dryers in the DTF space. They are a leader in innovative solutions for DTF printing. They manufacture these printers here in the United States. They're dedicated to providing top-of-the-line equipment and technology that enhance productivity and quality with a commitment to excellence. BMAC Industries continues to push boundaries of what's possible in garment decoration. I work super closely with DTF Superstore and the team over there, and this dryer is great. We just got ours just a couple of months ago, and they are fantastic. So hit up DTF Superstore for all of your DTF needs, and let's get to the podcast.
Jed Seifert was incredibly nice enough to let all 150 or so people from Print Hustlers, and I should say last year, 2024, last November, visit your facility. Print Hustlers in Cleveland, your facility is right next door. I think it was only like 15-minute drive or so. And when we pull up, first of all, the Google Maps sends everybody to some loading dock that's like a dead end. And then everyone figures it out and everyone's U-turning. It's kind of funny. It's this long train of backing up and U-turning. We get there and looks like a white labeled Walmart. And what I mean by that, or Target or Costco or something like that, is that it's a grocery store look, but it's not. It's total no signage, when you walk in, you get that feel, but obviously it's your business in there. Before we get into all this other stuff, how did that happen?
So it is a Walmart. What is it? So it's a Walmart.
Okay.
So it's a former Walmart. Basically, all the Walmarts went to super Walmarts, which means they added a grocery store, and there's some covenants in our park in our area that they couldn't do it. So they bought the Kmart next door, built a new Walmart, and we got the Walmart. So even when we moved in, you'll see different things in there, like the client service department. You can see the racking from like the ophthalmology. Our break room is the old Subway sandwich shop. We have a conference room where used to be the pharmacy. So it has like the metal grates that come down and it still says pick up, consultation, drop off. And they were going to take those signs down when we moved in. And I was like, nah, leave it. It adds character. So it is a true Walmart.
I don't know the square footage of a typical Walmart, but that'll tell us the square footage of your shop. How big is that footprint then?
So the whole building's 150,000 square feet. Our production is 110,000 of it.
Okay.
Do you walk that, or do you have a little scooter, or?
Yeah, you know, with my ADHD, I'm pacing all around the thing, you know. But I think a lot of people are. It's a big facility. It's a big facility.
You get your steps in.
Yeah, you definitely can get your steps in.
It could be, 110,000 square foot. This ain't a print shop. This is a manufacturing facility.
Mm-hmm.
And Steaks Manufacturing, it was super impressive. There are so many special things about your business. I know we're going to get into them. If you could quickly describe your business sweet spot and what you all specialize in, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we're a full digital print shop. So about half DTG, half DTF. We're a bit different than most because we're an R&D and engineering company. So we have our own proprietary file prep process that allows us to color match, allows us to do things on the cornites that we use for DTG and the Caldesis that we use for DTF that others can't. So half of our business is servicing traditional print on demand direct to consumer. So you go to Beatles.com, you buy a shirt, the order comes to us, we print it, ship it, white label it, send it out to the end consumer. The other half of our business is quick turn wholesale. So think about the same things that would go to a screen printer, but turning it faster and giving people cost optimization for, lower quantities, higher color counts, and also being able to do things that exceed screen print that screen print can't do, like fine line details, gradients.
You showed us some stuff. I don't know what I can say when I can't, but you showed us some stuff that was incredible, like the touch and the feel and the effects of it.
Yeah, so the new stuff that we're working on is this, we'll be the first people launching at scale in North America, which is Corning's XDI technology, which is basically, it allows digital printing to do a lot of the things that traditionally only screen print could do, and that's the depth, right? Like, so high density, puff. It also allows us to do faux embroidery so that, you can see textures and see threads. It's actually a bunch of samples in there if you did want to do a show and tell, but really just pretty much anything. I can make the shirt feel exactly like a basketball. All types of depth and creative things that were never possible before. And some of them can even be functional too, in pulling the garment stretch and when we're doing it on poly and other stuff.
Jed, when you took us on a tour through it, we had a parade. We snaked through the place and it was like, keep your hands in, don't touch anything.
Don't take a picture.
But we're talking, I don't know, 20, 30 cornites? How many cornites are in there?
It's a good question. I think it's 24, but I don't know. We just redid our fleet, so it's a lot of
a fleet. Yeah, like it's like
we're talking fleets.
We're talking fleets. Yeah. Okay. And these are really expensive, $500,000 machines. I don't even know how much a cornete is. I don't go in the booth because I can't afford it. How did you get the business to a point to afford the amount of just sheer equipment you have in there? Was there a pivotal moment in your business that you were able to do it? Did you just get crazy one day and say, fuck it, we're doing this? Because I literally was looking, I was like, holy shit.
Was there a huge amount of financing? Or
I got to take you back, right? So our first business, we did print on demand skins for iPods and cell phones back in the day, which used to be popular. We sold that business in 2011, but that was our first foray into print on demand. So after that, it wasn't that big. We were doing $2 million a year in revenue.
But it was your first,
business, sold something, sold it at the peak too, so it was good timing. We had worked with a screen printer, Jack Prince, who was out of Cleveland. They had printed a lot of our back sheets and marketing materials. So while we were looking for what's our next thing, we started just brokering screen print work to them. So bringing in millions of units of NFL jerseys a year and all types of, our first business, we had licensing deals with all the record labels and TV studios. So it was all, and streetwear companies. So it was all the people we already worked with. So getting all these bands and record labels to just start doing just traditional screen print. And then the founder, Jack Prince, had bought his first cornete and came to us, and he was like, hey, look how close I can get to screen print. This solves some of your streetwear brands who are looking for a more cost-effective way to sample. And me and my business partner, who's been my best friend, Vince Bartozzi, since we were 5 years old, kind of had that head-scratching, like immediate aha moment, like, hey, if you could do this digital one-off, like our whole business was on demand for the skins because we had thousands of devices, hundreds of thousands of graphics. Let's build an on-demand program. So then we set out to build that on-demand program in partnership with them. And then fast forward, we launched that in 2013, and then fast forward to 2019, we got the opportunity to acquire it from them. So when we acquired it from them, that business was probably only about like 25,000 square feet of the Walmart. And then in the first 6 months, we doubled it. Then the next year, COVID hit. And I mean, all the boats rose. I mean, it was high tide. I mean,
was print on demand.
right. So we tripled the business in 6 months during COVID. We were a model of inefficiency, but just kind of rocked through it and just kept growing. And as by the end of 3 different times, we went back to them and be like, hey, we need more of the building. Hey, we need more of the building. And by the end of the 2020, we're like, we needed the whole building.
In 2013 to 15, so it's towards the beginning, you know, getting that started, obviously there may not be the capital that you probably have now to be able to invest in. What did that look like then?
Well, you know, we had a good exit. We also had, you know, some good investors that we worked with. And, you know, we also had some other businesses. So during like 2013 to 2019, I was really focused on building this on-demand program. We were dividing and conquering with my business partner who was running our merchandise business. So he was, you know, we were doing full package merchandising from cut and sew overseas sourcing to retail for a lot of musicians. So like, I don't know if you remember Cameron and Dipset, we helped them launch their clothing brand and put it into retail. We were doing merchandising for people like Ali Wong and, you know, other kind of celebrity type of stuff. And then we also had a couple of our own clothing brands. So Patterson, which we've since licensed to Zoomies, and a couple other things that we were doing. So we were very separated. And then once the opportunity to acquire it, we kind of got rid of all of the other business ventures that we were working on and focused all of our energies on this on-demand program because it's a lot, but good investors.
I feel like there's also a bit of patience. Like you built for a long time before like there was a pop, or do you feel like you grew like, I don't know, it just seems like you took a huge kind of gamble a little bit, or does it not feel like it was a big gamble?
I feel like I'm still in there.
You're still gambling.
Like I feel like it's like, I feel like we're smoking meat here, slow and low, right? Like it's like, you know, there's many a times in my career where I've been like, well, when I just get this deal, everything's going to change. Or like, this is, you know, when we just get to this, when we just get to this size, everything's going to change. But the reality is I don't think, I mean, I haven't gotten to that point where there's something where it's like, oh shit, well now I'm just going to go sit on a boat. And not that that's what I want to do, but like,
Gotcha.
I feel like it is just continually pushing and pushing and pushing. And then any entrepreneur, you get knocked down along the way. Like people will say to me like, oh, well, you know, I just don't have that tribal knowledge to be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, you don't have to have a tribal knowledge. You just have to have a strong face because you're going to fall on it. And every time you fall on it, you just got to get back up and learn the lessons so you don't fall on it for the same reasons again. But it's all a slow burn.
But you're now a much bigger ship. Like you're a cruise ship now. And so like the mistakes are way more costly. Could you talk about some of the mistakes you've made along the way?
Of course. I mean, you talk about like how amazing COVID was, right? Tremendous growth. To triple the size of the business in a 6-month period is incredible, right? However, I mean, I think us amongst the entire industry, from the demand generators to the decorators to the equipment manufacturers, everybody thought that bubble wasn't going to burst. You know, people thought that like, oh, now that everybody's shopping online, even when things open back up, people are going to keep shopping online. But what happened was quite the opposite did. So, you know, if we could gone back in time, we probably would have bought less equipment. Like we probably wouldn't have tripled the business. We probably wouldn't have tripled the business in that 6 months. Maybe we would have only doubled it because then, you know, as you know, in this industry, especially on the digital side, the equipment's changing at a rapid pace. So, you know, you overbuy equipment and then 2 years later, that equipment's outdated. but you still got, you still have that on your books and you're still dealing with it. So it's, we definitely, I think there was mistakes in sort of maybe being too ambitious and thinking that the faucet, the well was never going to go dry, but you live and you learn. And I think it made us stronger as business people. And, just like I said, you fall on your face. You just got to make sure you don't fall on your face for the same reason again. So hopefully we learned our lesson on that and are more responsible.
We did an episode maybe a couple months ago. It was this guy that wrote an article on all the mistakes I made building my print-on-demand business. Mm-hmm. And it was an Amazon seller that got a little too, like googly-eyed and said, I'm going to actually get the equipment. I'm going to start doing it myself, and then crashed and burned and realized he should stay in his lane and just focus on sales. In the last couple of years, there have been obviously this huge push to DTF, but I get messages all the time of shops saying, I want to start doing on-demand, or I want to start doing fulfillment, and I want to, I want to build that part of my business. And time and time again, I tell them it's a completely different business. And a lot of times they don't listen, they do it. What advice do you have? Because your business is unique in that, not only is it on-demand digital printing for your own brands that you might license, but you're doing it for other shops as a contractor, which is a very hard thing to do. Can you talk about how different that type of business is than a traditional screen printing company? Just start to laundry list, all the differences.
Yeah, okay, so first of all, when everybody thinks about a print-on-demand business, you're thinking about printing, but the reality is the printing might even be it's very difficult, but that might even be the easiest part of the equation, right? You're talking about shipping out tens of thousands of individual units a day. You're talking about servicing clients who have different QC expectations. Like one is a very large brand that is expecting, or the NCAA, and they're expecting exact Pantones and exact quality specifications, versus one might be just a user-generated content website where the person took an inch by inch, 75 DPI file, increased it to 300 without actually changing the quality and saved it, and then is wondering why it's pixelated. So having to differentiate, is this us doing bad quality versus, actual bad artwork, right? Being able to manage the inventory and how we work on that, right? So we offer 80,000 some odd SKUs, but we only carry a few thousand in-house, but we're integrated with all of our suppliers. We have same-day delivery trucks so that, you can place an order for this Steaks Nike Tee sweatshirt, and I don't have it in-house, but then that garment's coming in. So receiving, when you're screen printing, you're receiving a box of T-shirts or a box of sweatshirts. You literally just take that box to the machine and start printing, right? Whereas us, it's every different unit is different, right? And
because it's ordering on demand as well.
It's ordering on demand, and you're producing on demand. So everything is a unit of one. When you start talking about
what happens when someone orders two things?
Collating those things. So for example, one of the mistakes we made early on was we're we're going to create these efficiencies. We're going to have the warehouse pick all of the Gildan 5000 blacks at the same time. And it's wait, we might have just picked a garment to print, but the partner garment might not even be in the building yet, right? So knowing how to stage things and kind of automate the processes, there's so much technology that goes into it. So we actually think of ourselves more as a technology company than even
shipping cubbies, maybe you can.
Yeah, cubby systems and shipping, and
it's huge.
What about returns and exchanges and QC and when customers don't get their products?
It's also speed. Everybody, when you say on demand to people, they think you just have a hat and you're just pulling rabbits out of it. And the other huge part is holiday.
The scalability of up and down.
What you're doing on a daily basis, and then Black Friday hits, and then your expectation is you're going to do 3 or 4 times that. Think about that. Whatever you do in your facility or for your job, somebody just says, hey, you know what? Next week I want you to do 3 times the amount of work you did this week. And how do you do that? There's a tremendous amount of human resources and temp labor and seasonal and training. It's a very, very complicated business. And then you haven't even gotten to the printing part, right? And there's such a spectrum of quality that you can get off of any of the equipment, right? So obviously we're Kornit and Coldesi, but you're not going to print on your Kornits the same way we do, because we're not even using sort of their off-the-shelf rip. We've got our own proprietary stuff that we've built, right? on our cold desis, we're not even using their consumables. We've sourced our own, right? So there's just so many factors, but it also depends on who you're servicing, right? Like if you're just servicing, your church group or, a local business, they might not have the same expectations of, this Pantone's got to be here and, and this hand feel's got to be this. But with we deal with a lot of people that have like licensed IP and even the corporate people. John Deere wants that green to be the exact green, so it's there's a lot
funny.
that goes into it. It's not an easy business.
We were walking, Brett and I were walking next to each other as we toured it, and we both looked at each other and was like, I could never do this. And he's like, no way, no freaking way. And he's like, you don't want this, do you? I was like, because I think people get wide-eyed, like, I hope I have a facility like this one day. And actually, like, the thought process, it confirmed when I left your facility that, like, hire great companies, let them do it, because just the amount of sheer work it takes to do all the crap you just talked about is
it seems like it's like the iceberg thing, right? You see the tip of the iceberg, but the bottom is really what's floating the whole thing. And there's so much underneath the water that you don't get to see. I mean, you've successfully scared off everyone.
It's I've even scared off my son. My 10-year-old son came to me and he's like, hey man, I can't wait till I graduate college and I can come work for your printing business, printing t-shirts. And I go, son, if I teach you anything in this world, go into a higher margin business and t-shirts, man.
Sell one-size-fits-all products that are not customized.
No, forget that. I told him not even a physical product. Sell software or learn AI, man.
Sell the cloud.
But that's also why, a huge portion of our partners are actually people that print for themselves, right? They either get tired of scaling because they don't want to keep, buying equipment, or they go, you know what? It's actually more profitable if I just outsource this to stakes. I can shut down operations, eliminate my capital expenditure, the overhead, rent and all these things, and just have these guys do it for me and have it white labeled, right? So
there was 200 to 250 people there.
Yeah.
We always talk about trying not to be in the weeds, and sometimes even I'll see an email go across, like a customer service email go across, and it's just like, the punctuation is so off on this. Do I say something, or I probably shouldn't be that deep? But how do you manage that? Is it management team? Is it departments? I mean, even that there's got to be multi levels, right?
Yeah. So how many total employees you got?
It depends on the time of year, but about 200 to 250 depending on the time of the year. And actually during holiday, it can even go higher than that.
But in a given shift, it's several hundred people on the floor kind of thing.
Yeah, so we run 7 days a week, 2.5 shifts, and those shifts like fill out differently. So like, your third shift might not be as filled out earlier in the year versus later in the year. But going back to your question about like how to manage it, it's a lot, man. Like you have to get great managers and great leaders. You have to delegate. You have to be at peace with maybe things aren't always being done the way you would have done them. And no matter what you do, it's never easy because we're humans. People have strengths, weaknesses. People have things going on outside of work that impact their work. There's weather. There's always something. To be quite frank, it was a transition for me because when we had our first business, I think we maybe got to like 40 people. So I felt like it was like this small family. Everybody knew each other, and I loved being sort of a part of everything. Mm-hmm. Whereas like now, maybe half of those people don't even know who I am, right? And not because I don't want to, but like it's almost a distraction or a disruption, and you just got to let your people. You got to get good people that you can trust. And I think that we've created a really great dynamic team and find people that specialize in each of the areas. But it is a never, people are people.
I'm just thinking about the
recruiting
recruiting and rehiring. Like there must always be people leaving and people coming in.
Retention. I mean, that's one of the hardest things for any business is retention. And, some of the stuff that I'm sure we're going to get into with our inclusion has really helped on sort of retention side of things. But that's also about creating a culture that's not going to have a revolving door of employees, right? And having folks have joy and fulfillment out of their job, feeling a sense of purpose, feeling a sense of opportunity for advancement. A lot of our leaders have started in entry-level positions and moved their way up, and empowering people so that, so again, that their job is more fulfilling. But yeah, I mean, we're in an industry where, there is a lot of turnover, and especially just everywhere in every industry for the last few years, that turnover rates have skyrocketed. It's harder and harder to retain.
I want to get to it. So one thing I admire about you, Jed, is you're super patient. I don't know if you like from afar, as like I observe you, like you're patient.
Can you tell my wife that?
Jed's patient. There's something really special about your business that I want to get into, and that's that you have a commitment to hiring very inclusively. You have quite a few employees with disabilities. Can you talk briefly about, how you got there, why that's important to you? Give us a little bit of the backstory, because I think what's really interesting is most shop owners are complaining about how their employees don't want to work, they're not capable of doing things, and a lot of times they just complain. And you have taken a completely different approach, which I think is really cool, and I think a lot can learn from. So tell us a little bit about it.
For sure. So my brother's got Fragile X. It's the leading genetic cause of autism. 25 years ago, he got a job working in the mailroom at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Gave him the ability to pay his own bills, create his own financial independence, move out of my parents' house, get his own apartment, make work friends, happiness, fulfillment, joy, everything everybody chases. And anybody who's got a child or a sibling with disabilities, you spend a lot of your life going, hey, what's going to happen after I die? How are they going to support themselves? So to give an individual with disabilities financial independence not only has a tremendous impact on the individual, but it also on the family members and all of that, and the community too, right? You're going from a dependent living at your parents' house to an independent taxpayer, putting money back into the local economy with travel and lunches and all the whole nine. So when we acquired the business in 2019, our first initiative with our leadership team was that we were going to be an inclusive business. And a lot of people talk about inclusivity these days, but typically, it's race, religion, sexual orientation, age. Disabilities gets left out in the dark, right? 80% of people with intellectual disabilities are unemployed, and that's not because they don't want to work or can't work. So I was already doing a bunch of stuff with disability inclusion outside of the print industry, just working with the organization. So there's organizations that will help you find, screen, hire, train individuals with disabilities, and train their managers at zero cost to the employer. So I started doing work with the organization that supports my brother in DC, this wonderful organization, Seek. So I learned this model, Seek, S-E-E-C. I learned this model, which I was totally unaware of, and then started helping just introducing businesses. So I helped the Fairmont Hotels chain start setting up an inclusion program. I helped a chain of gyms in our DC area. And I just started seeing like, oh my God, just from making these introductions and introducing people to this model, changing people's lives like my brother's life was changed. But what I found very interesting was we weren't working with any print shops. And people with disabilities really thrive in repetition, right? Low skilled repetition, but also high skilled repetition, right? And I was like, well, why is that? Why, and repetition they can learn the job, they enjoy it. So when you talk about turnover, people without disabilities find repetition to be monotonous, boring, burnout, and that's where you get inconsistent results, and you also get higher turnover rates. People with disabilities tend to be the exact opposite, right? So they find repetition at home. They want to do the same thing over and over. It's not one size fits all for anything. So our first initiative was we were going to be inclusive, right? And then, so currently over 10% of our staff has developmental or intellectual disabilities. And we're not talking about charity here. Like, we're talking about giving people the opportunity, maybe training them a little bit different, but holding them to the same standards as every other employee. Our top warehouse employee at a 40 has autism. Our top shipper at a 25 has autism. And that's based off of the same speed and accuracy benchmarks as everybody else. Not to mention, both of them have, if not perfect, damn near perfect attendance too, right? But we also have a program with the local county school system where we get 12 interns a semester who come, they get an on-site mentor with help training them to become sort of independent workers. And that top warehouse employee is actually a graduate from that program. So he transitioned out of high school, got a full-time job, and now he's one of our best employees. But the impact is beyond just sort of help, like you're getting great workers, but it changes your company completely, right? Retention for your other employees goes up because now their job is more fulfilling. They feel a sense of purpose.
Sense of accountability and purpose. Is fulfilling.
They come in, they're happier, right? Like you know, we all get pissed off about things, but you come in and you see somebody who's faced challenges their whole life, people telling them they can't do things their whole life, and yet they're positive, they're excited to go to work, and it's infectious, right? It creates better teamwork. So also the numbers don't lie, right? Businesses that are inclusive are more productive, more profitable, and there's data all over the place to kind of show that. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Everybody's like, oh, well, I can't do it because I can't afford it, you know, or I'm going to lose money. And it's quite the opposite. It makes your entire business better.
Can I ask some questions that like might be shops listening to this are like, I don't know if that's appropriate to ask, but I want to ask it. And I think as a sibling of someone with, you know, like you've grown up with it. Yeah. And so like, because they have a disability, do they make less than another employee?
No.
Okay, so
you were paid based off of your performance.
No, so like a shop listening to this, like, oh, I can pay them less. So like I just want to like debunk some of these myths. Are there tax breaks?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It depends on the state that you're in, but there's some sort of tax breaks. There's also certain credits. So like a big thing that we talk about, the ADA was a big legislation that passed years ago that basically helped protect people with disabilities. And, you know, people hear the word accommodations, right? Because you need to give people accommodations. They go, oh my God, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. Well, over 80% of accommodations don't cost anything. And the average accommodation costs like $400, right? But
what's an accommodation?
Great question, right? So an accommodation could be, I hate even the word accommodation. It's what do they need to be successful, right? So an accommodation could be, hey, this individual doesn't read well, so you're not going to even give them a training manual, just show them how to do it, right? That could be an accommodation. An accommodation could be, hey, it doesn't even have to be an accommodation for people with disabilities, right? Because what we look at it is everybody should get accommodations, right? If I got a single mother who needs to come into work an hour early so she can leave an hour early so she can get to her kids, or you have a short individual who needs a platform to stand on so they don't get back pains. Changing other accommodations can be like changing the design of the way you do things to simplify it, right? Like, all right, what if we color coded our presses to make it easier for people to know where things are going? Or what if we use different technologies that just made, but what is crazy, it's called universal design. The things that you do to help the individuals with disabilities actually makes every employee better, right? Like you're
just meeting them where they're at instead of like forcing them to come your way.
I mean, so many innovations have come from accommodating, right? So like you guys use voice to text all the time, right? That was invented specifically for people with disabilities. Like you see carve outs in the corner on the street, on the curb, right? That was invented for people with wheelchairs, but everybody benefits from it, right? And when you start looking at your processes and go, how do I make my processes universal for everybody? You start to see holes in even the ways that you were doing things. But then also understanding that, like, look, some people just learn different, whether you have disabilities or not. Some people learn better from hearing. Some people learn better from seeing. Some people just need to do
So it improves that implementation.
So then it makes your managers better at understanding those things and kind of figuring out ways to not just help the individuals with disabilities, but kind of tailoring the way they work with everybody.
Right. Huh. Do you have any other good, because those are good questions.
So like when you're interviewing someone with disabilities, what is the respectful way to know like what they will be able to do? Because there's a little bit like, do you feel like it's like I'm taking a little bit of a risk, or like I don't know how this is going to turn out? Is the interview process different? Like I feel like if someone, and I'm not experienced with this, and that's probably why I'm asking, if someone came, I wouldn't know where to start. Be like, okay, what can you do? What can't you do? How are you going to be socially? Like, how do you navigate the interview process?
Great question.
Yeah.
So
sorry if that. Yeah.
No, there's no sorry. Please. That's the whole reason why like I talk about this publicly, not just in the print industry but everywhere, is to kind of help people understand these things and kind of calm those fears, right? So these disability employment service providers like Seek that I was telling you about that I work with my brother and whatnot, they do the work for you, right? They're going to come into your business, right? And they're going to look at.
So you give them a role.
Well, not even, right? So they're going to come into your business, right? They're going to go just like any other hiring agency, but they're going to look at all your entry level positions. And so I connected a screen printer once, right, with one of these organizations. They thought they were going to hire somebody just to clean screens, right? But then all of a sudden, once the service provider that they used came in, it was actually like, oh, actually, you have a job opening for data entry. And that's actually the perfect role for this person with autism that we have. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Then I'm going to end up printing like 1,444 shirts instead of 144 because of one wrong keystroke. And it's like, well, actually, people with autism tend to be more detail oriented than people without disabilities, right? So it's about our job as managers, leaders, and owners is about finding people's strengths and abilities and cultivating those and mitigating their weaknesses or disabilities. But you don't have to figure it out yourself. That's what these service providers do. And then they're going to find the right candidates, right? So you're also not supposed to ask.
Take off the whole workload of all.
Right. So you're not supposed to ask. You can't ask people with disabilities, what is your disability? Right?
Okay, can't ask that.
Right. No, you can't. Right.
Okay.
But just like you can't say like, I can't ask an employee about
Like
their
your
medical
age
or age.
Sure,
Right. Although a lot of our folks even tell us anyway, because it's such an open environment, but like the service provider will kind of let you know where they're going to fit best. But then there's also other ways, right? We'll ask questions like, all right, do you like working with people or without people? Do you like being standing in one place or do you need to be moving? Right. So perfect example. We talked about two of our best employees. Well, one of them, super social, wants to say hi to everybody and is always on the move. Perfect for the warehouse. The other one, well, doesn't want to interact with people, so he's a shipper. He's in his own pod. He doesn't have to really interact with anybody, right? And he doesn't have to move around all the time. So just kind of understanding sort of not just their abilities, but what they're looking for, but also keep in mind, there's also another level of disabilities that we, just by putting our ads that we hire people with disabilities, we get folks that don't need job coaches, right? Some job coaches could be there every day with an employee, right? Some could just be checking in once a month. It just depends on services they qualify and what they actually need. We got a lot of employees that apply for work that don't need job coaches.
What roles?
And a job coach would be, is this a government funded person that's there to help them professionally and check in?
So some of their governments, some of their like Medicaid and stuff will cover it, but it's a private organization that just like any other hiring agency, but they have a job coach who will train them, but also not only train them, they'll train your managers. They also, like if their performance isn't there, right? So, hey, this guy's only hitting 60% of his performance. Can you help him get to where he needs to be? Because this ain't charity. I'll say it again. Like we're asking
You're running a for-profit company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're asking to open the door, but you're still, it's all free, right? And it's all free. And every other hiring agency I have charges me 30 some odd percent, right? But not just, you have to be prepared to fire people too, right? If it doesn't work out, give the opportunity to somebody else, right? Again, you're not just going to keep somebody who isn't performing. And I think that's a harder thing to even hire is like, can you fire? And then we have folks that just see in our ads and Indeed that we hire people of all abilities. So one example, we have this lady who works for us. She applied for a job folding T-shirts. Cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, not the best dexterity, but we're like, we're going to give her a chance, see what's going on. And she started working and she wasn't the fastest at folding T-shirts. I sat down with her for lunch at the end of week 1. Turns out she's got a degree in cybersecurity from a major university. She's way smarter than I am. And I was like, well, why are you folding T-shirts for us? And she's like, nobody will give me a chance. They just see all this. So within a few weeks, we had talked to our CTO, moved her into a technology position where she was behind her computer all the time. She does all of our custom reports for the warehouse and inventory and does all of our custom client reports and stuff like that. So,
but it must be hard, something like people with disabilities might have different social skills or like interpersonal skills or like the human connection, like communication skills. Is it sometimes hard for you to fire them and let them go? Like, do you have kind of a long, this was asked if you're patient, but like, because they have this, they're categorized as a person with disabilities, like how do you like
Part ways if you
part
need to.
ways or discipline or like.
So the job coaches really help in that capacity. And I'll tell you, it is hard, right? The only people
I'm sure there's issues.
the only times I've ever gotten a call about somebody potentially getting terminated has been at this point, because that's not the part of the business I deal with, right? Is if it's somebody with disabilities, and I'm like, well, why are you calling me? Well, they're like, I'm like, dude, this is important to me, but again, we have our standards, right? Like, if
We don't want to insult you,
right,
Jed.
if this person is violating our human resource policies, they got to be let go. If they're not performing and we've taken the extra steps to go to their job coach to increase performance and performance isn't there, you got to go. Because guess what? If you keep them on board, then all of a sudden you trivialize the entire program, because then other employees are going to be upset because now they're carrying the weight of somebody who's underperforming on their team.
But it sounds like you have a pretty robust set of training and guidelines and infrastructure such that, like, if you didn't have that all in place, it could be tough.
But in theory, shouldn't you? I guess the rebuttal though is that it sounds like this SEEC
they help you, they guide you,
and you probably have to walk any new hire around to figure out their role anyway for a few days.
Yeah.
On a percentage basis, we have more personnel issues with our non-disabled employees than our disabled employees. So let's make that very clear, right? There's also a tremendous amount of resources. So every state has a vocational rehabilitation office. They will send people to your facility to do training, not just training on like the actual work. So for example, we did a workshop, right? They came for free. It was volunteer only. 75 people showed up, which was awesome, right? I had 200 some odd employees, 75 people voluntarily showed up. And they talked about some of the ethics or etiquette, of working with people with disabilities and some of the challenges, right? Like, I've been working with people with disabilities my whole life. I didn't realize until I hired a deaf employee that they didn't want to be called hearing impaired.
What do they want to be called?
Deaf.
Huh. Cool.
I didn't know that, right? But and people are scared about making those mistakes. Even before this interview, you started to ask me hey, can I say this? And do I call it this? And it's like, if you're working to hire people with disabilities and you're open to getting the feedback if you say the wrong thing, and guess what? The thing that's politically correct today might not even be the thing that's down the road, right? Seeing impaired is actually not frowned upon, while hearing impaired is frowned upon. There's some complexity. So you don't have to get caught up in that stuff. And as long as you're open to kind of learning from it. But okay, so going back, right? So they came and they did this training, right? So talking about different things, hey, if somebody's in a wheelchair, don't lean down to talk to them. Stay standing up just like you would if they were standing up, right? Because they don't want to be looked down on. And just little things like that. But what they also did, so they talked about some of the etiquette stuff, but then they did this exercise, right? So they said they took 10 jobs in our facility and 10 different disabilities. And they said, okay, tell me what job is least likely to be able to be done by somebody with this disability. 95% of the people picked a blind forklift driver. And the guy's like, well, actually, the guy who's legal, we got to
pull up Steven's photo driving the forklift.
Good one.
I would have to see that later. Yeah. So this guy's legally blind. He only has 10% of his vision, no peripherals, but they installed kind of rear view mirrors for your car around the forklift so he could have 360 view, and he got certified, which is a national certification to drive a forklift. So everybody on our company's mind's oh my God, we're putting everybody in a box. And then what also happened, which is such a beautiful thing, is 2 moms stood up and said, hey, I've got a kid with disabilities. The only, I could have left to go to Amazon for an extra $1 an hour, but I'm here because I believe in the mission and it gives me hope for my kids. And then the next thing happened was 2 individuals that work for us that nobody knew had disabilities and are in mid-level positions in the organization, stood up and said, hey, I have this disability. I've never disclosed it to an employer. I've never disclosed it to a fellow employee because I've always worried about being judged or treated differently, but I feel comfortable doing it in this environment. And that was such a heartwarming moment. But what it also does is now all of a sudden, your employees without disabilities now feel like they can ask for what they need to be successful. They can show up to work and be who they are as an individual and not compromise who they are. And what then that also does is then now all of a sudden, people are sharing more ideas, how to fix things, how to do things, because again, they don't think they're going to be judged. So you're no longer getting ideas from just your top 15 people in the organization. Everybody knows that they have a voice and they're going to be heard and they can ask for what they need to be successful because that's what we're trying to do as a business, is make them successful with making us successful in unison. So it's really interesting. But going back to your point is like, there's so many training services, but all these questions that you're asking, right? All these things that people fear or don't understand is what motivated us to write a book about it. Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So you're writing a book.
Or almost finished.
Almost.
Inkclusivity, INKclusivity.com, which I signed up. You can put in your info and your email to get notified it's coming out, or it's out?
Yeah, tell us about this book.
So Inkclusivity, it's a how-to guide for implementing disability inclusion in your print shop, and also goes through all of the company benefits. I mean, just cold hard facts of how this is going to benefit your business from an ROI standpoint, bottom line, right? It was actually supposed to come out in October for Print United, but we didn't like the first edit. We kind of redid parts of it, and then we were going to launch it later in the year. And I kind of got stuck on the fact that, I wrote the book with my business partner, Vince Bartozzi. We wrote it with a screen printer, Spectrum Designs, Patrick Bardsley and Tim Howe. And then we also wrote it with Marshall Atkinson. And when I got it, it was a heartwarming story, but it was too much of that, right? Like, this needed to be a business book. Like, this is step by step. I'm a print shop. I want to be inclusive. Here's the reasons why
you said that this isn't charity.
No, this isn't charity, right? Well, the book is charity, right? So we're not making a penny off the book. But so yeah, reasons to hire people with disabilities, step by step of like, how do you find these organizations? What do I say? What are the legal things? How do we train? How does it impact other employees? If you remember like those old school like dummies guide, like we wanted to make it so simple and straightforward of every step that you can do, because I think a lot of people, I speak all over the country about this, and I think a lot of people want to do it, but they just can't get over the fear, the potential costs, the risk. So we really wanted to take that out of it. So we did a kind of a rewrite of it, which just got finished up. So it's going through its final edit, and then we're going to launch it in the next few months. It's going to be free to download for everybody. So if you go to Inkclusivity.com, that's inclusivity, but with a K in between the N and the C, you can sign up your email. As soon as it's released, you'll get a free copy. And then Print United Alliance was kind enough to really be supportive, and is subsidizing the cost to print a physical copy and ship it to each one of their 4,000 or 5,000 members. We're also going to be publishing it on Amazon, so you can buy a physical copy. Again, this is a labor of love. None of that is going into our pockets. If there's any for the physical, it's to cover the cost of the book and sort of any other cost in putting the book together. But the downloadable is for free for everybody. And then we're also working to share it with the Department of Labor and these national trade organizations and disability service providers, because, like I said, there's not many printers nationwide. And typically, my mentor always says, we're trying to flip the model, right? Typically, these service providers are banging on local businesses' doors and going, hey, let me explain this model to you. We've got employees. What we're doing is going, hey, no, let's educate the businesses so they start coming to them. But those agencies want the book because now all of a sudden they can go to a printer, which as we know, there's printers in every city in the country, and go, hey, this model's proven. Here's a how-to guide, and it's for all businesses, right? There's businesses like friend Amber Massey has a screen print business, and it's just her and one employee, and that employee has disabilities. Whereas, we're sitting here right outside the Rock atrium, and Ross from Rock called me. He's like, how do I set it up? I connected him with a local service provider, and within a month or so, he had a program set up. We've set up programs with Corneat, right? So like, it's all size businesses, and this book is really to take.
It's the how-to.
It is the how-to.
If people want to get a hold of you for two reasons: one, to use stakes for print on demand because you are a business, or DTG on demand. Or to learn more about this, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Tell us a little bit about that.
So we're stakesmfg.com, so STAKESMFG.com. More information on our business there. There's a contact us form. All you have to do is put my name in. They will immediately get forwarded to me. This is my life passion, right? I love printing, but it doesn't giving me the same warm and fuzzies as kind of helping people and changing lives like my brother's was changed. So, I can help direct people to, a local service provider, answer any questions they might have. But also that's why we published this book, is because some people maybe don't want to reach out to me. We wanted to have everything sort of in one place. Same thing if you want to do business with us. It's stakesmfg.com. And we're always excited to make new partnerships and see how we can help people.
Tell them the podcast sent you.
Hey, Print Hustlers, we appreciate you joining us. Jed, thank you for spending time with us too. Inkclusivity.com. You guys could check it out. And shouts out to TGI Fridays for letting us sit in their booths once again for this episode. We will see you guys on the next week's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy all the stuff we're putting out, it's really helpful. We love to just be able to see it. That means that we're doing a good job. To subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.